Gaura Premanande.
Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parivajikacharya, Astatatar Shata, Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Nagar Acharya Iskcon Srila Prabhupada Ki, Iskcon Guru Guru Ki, praise the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Radha Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govardhana, Ramakund Radhakund Jai Govardhana Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Shri Gaura Madhava Dham Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Muna Devi Ki, Gangamai Ki, Srimati Tosi Mani Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Samudra Gaura Shri Nitai Chaitanya Sangha Nitai Gaura Chandra Ki, Shri Shri Govardhan Ki, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Ki, Samudra Gaura Shri Shri Pavanivana Ki, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. That should be good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Vasajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Vasajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vasujana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Asta Tatara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Prantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaura Bhaktavinda ki. I guess we're personalists. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Praeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Today we're reading from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, new chapter 85. So verse 3 is on the board. The first two verses don't have purports. So, first I'll read the chapter, then we'll chant the verse. Chapter summary. Chapter 85. Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva and retrieves Devaki's sons. This chapter relates how Lord Krishna imparted divine knowledge to his father, and along with Lord Balaram, retrieved his mother's dead sons. Having heard the visiting sages glorify Krishna, Vasudeva ceased to regard him and Balaram as his sons and began praising their omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After glorifying his sons, Vasudeva fell at Lord Krishna's lotus feet and begged him to drive away the conception that the Lord was his son. Instead, Lord Krishna restored that conception by instructing Vasudeva in the science of Godhead. And upon hearing these instructions, Vasudeva became peaceful and free of doubt. Then Mother Devaki and Krishna and Balaram, reminding them how they had retrieved the dead son of their spiritual master, she said, "Please fulfill my desire in the same way. Please bring back my sons who were killed by Kamsa, so I may see them once again." Entreated in this way by their mother, the two lords went to the subterranean planet of Sutala, where they approached Bali Maharaj. King Bali greeted them respectfully, offering them seats of honor, worshipping them and reciting prayers. Krishna and Balaram then requested Bali to return Devaki's dead sons. The lords received the boys from Bali and returned them to Dwarka. To Devaki, who felt such a surge of affection for them that milk began spontaneously flowing from her breasts. Overjoyed, Devaki fed the children her breast milk, and by drinking the remnants of milk once drunk by Lord Krishna himself, they regained their original forms as demigods and went back to heaven. So we'll chant the Sanskrit for verses 1 and 2. Verse 1. Sri Badarayani Vacha Ataika Datmajo Prapto Ritapada Vivandano Vasudevo Binandyaha Pritya Sankarsh Sanachyutao. Translation: Sri Badarayani said, one day the two sons of Vasudeva, Shankarsan and Achyuta, came to pay him respects. Bowing down at his feet, Vasudeva greeted them and with great affection and spoke to them. Text 2. Muninam Savacha Shrutva Putrayor Damas Suchakam Tadviryer Jata Vishramba Paribhashyab Yavashata. Having heard the great sage's words concerning the power of his two sons, and having seen their valorous deeds, Vasudeva became convinced of their divinity. Thus, addressing them by name, he spoke to them as follows. And the verse is on the board. Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Sankarshana Sanatana Jane Vamasya Yat Sakshat Pradana Purusho Paro Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Sankarshana Sanatana Jane Vamasya Yat Sakshat Pradana Purusho Paro Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Sankarshana Sanatana Jane Vamasya Yat Sakshat Pradana Purusho Paro. Krishna Krishna, O Krishna Krishna, Mahayogin, O greatest yogi, Sankarsana, O Balaram, Sanatana, eternal, Jane, I know, Vam, you too, Asya, of this universe, Yad, which, Sakshat, directly, Pradhana, the creative principle of nature, Purusho, and the creating personality of Godhead, Paro, supreme. Translation, and then the purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Vasudeva said, O Krishna, Krishna, best of yogis, O eternal Shankarshan, I know that you two are personally the source of universal creation and the ingredients of creation as well. Please repeat. Vasudeva said, O Krishna, Krishna, best of the yogis, O eternal Shankarshan, I know that you too are personally the source of universal creation and the ingredients of creation as well. Purport. As taught in the Sankhya doctrine of Lord Kapiladev, Pradhan is the creative energy of the Purusha, the Supreme Person. Thus, of these two principles, the Pradhan is the predominated energy, female, incapable of independent action, while the Purusha is the absolutely independent primeval creator and enjoyer. Neither Krishna nor his brother Balaram belong to the category of subordinate energy. Rather, both of them together are the original Purusha, who is always joined by his manifold potencies of pleasure, knowledge, and creative emanation. Om Anjana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Namane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the three verses again. Sri Badarayani said, one day the two sons of Vasudeva, Shankarshan and Achyuta, came to pay him respects, bowing down at his feet. Vasudeva greeted them with great affection and spoke to them. Having heard the great sage's words concerning the power of his two sons, and having seen their valorous deeds, Vasudeva became convinced of their divinity. Thus, addressing them by name, he spoke to them as follows. Vasudeva said, O Krishna, Krishna, best of yogis, O eternal Shankarshan, I know that you two are personally the source of universal creation and the ingredients of creation as well. So Vasudeva, being the father of Krishna, sometimes he has paternal or fatherly feelings for Krishna, but unfortunately he's more often than not he's affected by awe and reverence, which kind of doesn't mix so well with fatherly affection. So his difficulty is that he swings between these two platforms of sometimes feeling like Krishna is his dear son that he has to care for and protect, and other times that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And compared to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, Vasudeva and Devaki, who are also fulfill the parental role for Krishna and Balaram, compared to Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they have a little more difficulty seeing Krishna and Balaram as their sons, even from the very appearance of Krishna in the prison cell of Kamsa. Krishna assumed a four-headed form and told them that they had been his devotees in previous lives and that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that was their first impression of their son Krishna. So it's very hard for them to really forget that Krishna is God. So they were kind of vacillating between these two emotions or moods. Even when Krishna killed the wrestlers on the in Mathura, when Kamsa had invited them to come to Mathura, hoping to kill Krishna, have Krishna and Balaram killed, either by the big elephant Kuvalayapita or by his powerful wrestlers Chanara and Mustika. So the plan was to kill Krishna, and naturally when the wrestling match was going on, the Vasudeva and Devaki must have had the fear that parents would have that their small son would be killed by these wrestlers. But even when the Krishna and Balaram killed the elephant and killed Chandra and Mustika, even then his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, they couldn't embrace him. They just stood there kind of stunned in awe and reverence. So they have a long history of having a hard time having a completely parental mood of love for Krishna. Now, in fact, Vasudeva, in the previous chapter, Vasudeva is more like a king than Nanda Maharaj, who lives in a more simple, rural setting in Vrindavan. Mathura is a bigger city, more sophisticated. So Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj were talking, and Vasudeva kind of complained against the effect of kingly opulence that it has on the mind. Vasudeva appreciated Nanda Maharaj's simplicity. He was not as sophisticated and not as distracted. so he could be more in the mood of the father of Krishna, protector of Krishna. But the whole atmosphere of Kurukshetra was not so good for intimate dealings. Vasudeva got a taste of the more intimate feelings when he spoke with Nanda Maharaj in the last chapter. And it's described that when he was talking with Nanda Maharaj, that Vasudeva felt Sarita, which was defined as intimate sympathy. So he felt more intimate talking to this intimate devotee. But usually he was doing kingly duties and associating with people that had more of an official mood. And but when he was associating with Nanda Maharaj, his heart softened. And even it's described that he was Ashru Vilochana, that is, Ashru, tears flowed from his eyes. So, this is actually the goal of Krishna consciousness, is to cry for Krishna, to have, deep emotions for Krishna. Usually our heart is sort of hard, and we may chant the names of Krishna, but we don't so often cry or have a deep feeling for Krishna when we're chanting, although this is the goal. So Nanda Maharaj was more simple in his mood, and he also sometimes, got confused because Krishna did all these great miracles, but his main emotion was, I'm the father of Krishna. I guess that was his sthayi bhava, his steady meditation on Krishna. Whereas Vasudeva and Devaki were not as steady in that parental love for Krishna. So in verse 2 we read today, which describe how the sages who glorified Krishna in a kind of a very formal, reverential way, they didn't help him have the intimate parental feeling either. So he had just been dealing with the sages at the sacrifice and hearing them glorify Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in verse 2 that we read here, it mentioned that having heard the great sage's words concerning the power of his sons, having seen their valorous deeds, Vasudeva became convinced of their divinity. So there's actually a place for both being convinced of the divinity of Krishna and having more spontaneous, intimate feelings. Like in Iskcon, Prabhupada said that when we worship the deities, even though the deities are Radha and Krishna, as we're learning Krishna consciousness, we can't assume that we're on the intimate level with Radha and Krishna. So he said we should worship the deities as if they're Lakshmi Narayan, even though the deities are Radha and Krishna. Our mood should be formal. And with that formality comes more careful attention to detail. Like Prabhupada said, cleanliness and punctuality are important in deity worship. If we think that Krishna is our intimate son, then we may not be so attentive to punctuality, a funny story of some Mataji in Krishna's Leela who she was a great kind of spontaneous devotee, and she was cooking for Krishna and Balaram while at the same time brushing her teeth. And she got up, she was a very spontaneous devotee. So when she woke up, it was kind of late, so she didn't take a shower either. So she wasn't clean by a shower, and she was brushing her teeth while she's cooking. And then describe that at times she used the toothbrush to stir the... So she broke all the rules, all the vidis. So then some sage witnessed this, chastised her, said, "Hey, did you take a shower today?" "No." And he criticized her cooking. And of course, as she was cooking, she had great love for Krishna, so she was singing songs. And anyway, she got very serious. So the next day, she took a shower, used a proper spoon instead of the. But then she was late for the bringing prasadam to Krishna and Balaram, so they started crying and they got all agitated. And then the sage realized that Krishna was so moved by their devotion, by her devotion, that he didn't mind all the other things. But this was because she was such an very advanced devotee. But we're not on that level. If we go into the deity kitchen with our toothbrush, it won't work. So we may get a hellish punishment or reaction for doing that, whereas the eternal devotee, in some rare cases, is on a whole other platform. So Prabhupada said that in Krishna consciousness, we're not so advanced that we can have the intimate mood all the time, so we should have some reverential feelings also. And also with our spiritual master, we should, like one of the verses in the last couple of chapters, there was staying familiarity breeds contempt. So if we get too familiar with our spiritual master, we may think the spiritual master is an ordinary person. We may make offenses. So generally there has to be a balance of intimate feelings of submission and love with some on reverence when dealing with the spiritual master or senior devotees. Or there should be some, when we're dealing with equals, it's not as important, but still there should be some respect for all devotees. We shouldn't get too familiar with even our equal devotees. Like that Mataji from Mayapur gave a seminar on different things. Shishival Nilamadavaki. There's a Mataji, I think her name is Devaki. She gave a seminar, and her last seminar was on false ego. I forget what the previous one was, but in the seminar she said that it's the most difficult relationship is with your equals, because you tend to see your equals. Maybe you can respect the senior devotee a little more easily, but it's the dangerous thing with our equals is that we can kind of minimize them. And even when Prabhupada started to preach, his godbrothers thought, who is this Bhaktivedanta? He's trying to be such a big preacher. He's just like one of us. He's going to the West. They got a little envious. They couldn't see their godbrother as an advanced Vaishnava, and they tended to think, I'm equal to him, and so, I joined the Gaudiya Math the same year that he did, but I'm not getting the same kind of respect that Prabhupada is getting. So she was saying that it's hard to honor our equals. It's particularly challenging. And I know sometimes I'll hear an equal godbrother give a lecture, I'll think, oh, he should have made a better point, and there's some kind of comparison that creeps into your mind. So respecting all devotees is important. Equals, juniors, and seniors. Of course, if we offend senior devotees, it's more serious, but offending any devotee is not so good. So in the purport it mentions that the last line has the words Pradhan and Purusha. So Purusha refers to Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Personality of God, the Supreme Persons. And Pradhan, in the purport it says that Pradhan is the predominant energy, female, incapable of independent action, while the Purusha is the absolutely independent, primeval creator and enjoyer. So this Pradhan is like the unmanifest material energy, and the three modes of nature come out of Pradhan, and so Pradhan is said to be not independent, but at all. Now, can anybody think of a feminine personality that is independent? I mean, usually we hear that ladies have to be dependent on their father when they're young, on their husband. I don't think so. Bhakti Devi. Describe a Bhakti Devi. She's independent. Bhakti doesn't depend on karma, jnana, pious activities. Bhakti, unlike this prakriti or material nature, bhakti is transcendental. So it's described how devotional service doesn't come from any material cause, but comes from bhakti. So I was thinking that like there's a story of one sadhu in Mayapur, and his name was Saranga Thakur, and he was very humble, and Lord Chaitanya encouraged him to take at least one disciple, but he didn't feel qualified. But finally he agreed. He said, the first person, he didn't want to make a big deal about it, so he said, the first person I see tomorrow, I'll initiate and make my disciple. So he happened to see a dead body floating down the Ganges. He went to bathe and the sun was just coming up. Saw a dead body. But then he went out and touched the dead body, he came alive, and that dead body became his disciple. So at least ostensibly, it didn't look like the dead body was doing any bhakti activities or any pious activities. we don't know what that person was in his previous life, but this pastime showed that the bhakti of that devotee Saranga Thakur descended on the person whether he deserved it or not. There's a story in the Bible of Lord Jesus Christ was being crucified, and one of the prisoners who was also on death row was saying, I deserve it, but this Jesus doesn't. And then Jesus said, you'll be in the kingdom with me today also. So maybe that guy was not very pious, but Jesus and Saranga Thakur bestowed bhakti on them. Doesn't mean that piety doesn't help bhakti. It's like piety is like good soil, but without a good seed, the best soil and sunshine will have no effect. So bhakti comes from the heart of someone that has bhakti. In that way, Bhakti Devi is independent. And so anyway, in this section of the Bhagavatam, we've been reading how Nanda Maharaj was so much fearing that he would lose Krishna's association that he was planning to leave, but that leaving kept getting put off, so he ended up staying for 3 months. And so he was kind of on the mental platform, but it was Krishna conscious mental platform. So I just wanted to mention that I'm sure that Bhakta Marcus, it's not so easy to leave, but he's going to go to college, but I'm sure he has some nice memories of his time here, and it's not. So Nanda Maharaj was leaving Kurukshetra, leaving Krishna's association, but Krishna assured him that he would not really leave him in his heart, and other people like Vasudev, and they said that they would do everything to get Krishna to go to Raja. But the power of Krishna consciousness is that once we have the effect of Krishna consciousness, we can never really forget Krishna. So I'm sure that Krishna has enjoyed having Marcus here playing the drum early in the morning, and even if Krishna doesn't appreciate Marcus, the devotees like him. So Krishna has to do what the devotees Krishna has to treat Marcus nicely just because the devotees like him. So, but once you're a devotee, you can never really get out of Krishna consciousness. There's that saying that if you want to enjoy materialistic family and society, and then don't see that boy on the bank of the Jamuna. So once you see that boy on the bank of the Jamuna, you'll never quite forget him. So there's a story of one time I was in Dallas, and Holiness Danavir Maharaj, he did a really nice drama the drama was about a rock musician who became a devotee. So he engaged about 20 devotees in the temple to act out different roles. I was a prop person, which I enjoyed. So as he was playing this drama in Dallas, hundreds of miles away on I-10, there was a guy hitchhiking from the west coast coming this direction, I think. And this Prabhupada disciple who had kind of gotten out of Krishna consciousness was driving. No. The Prabhupada disciple was hitchhiking, I think. Yeah. And this professor, college professor, was taking a sabbatical, and he was just, I don't know what his plan was, but he was driving on I-10. So he passed this guy who was hitchhiking on the road, the college professor. And he passed him, but he thought, maybe I should have picked up that guy. So then he turned around, and picked up the guy. And the guy turned out to be a devotee, but he wasn't following strictly. So, they're driving hundreds of miles, and they're just talking about different things. And the devotee started telling the college professor about Krishna consciousness, and the college professor was really enlivened. Wow. And the devotee said, I'm not following strictly, but Prabhupada is such a great acharya, such a great teacher. And if you get a chance, you should. The best years of my life was when I was living in the temple. If you get a chance, you should spend time in the temple. He was very humble, wasn't following all the principles, but he had great faith in Prabhupada. The professor said, well, where's the closest temple? So they were somewhere near El Paso. And they were coming this direction. So he said, I'm not sure, but maybe Dallas. He said, will you take me to Dallas? So he took the bum, the devotee, somehow guided him to Dallas. And I don't know what happened to the devotee, but the professor asked, he met the devotees, he said, can I stay here for a while? So they cast the professor in the drama, and he had quite a prominent role. And it was a very nice Krishna conscious experience, and the professor ended up becoming a devotee, and he became a disciple of Dhanavir Maharaj. And Dhanavir Maharaj was preaching in Israel. So this professor later on went to Israel. He got initiated, and he went to Israel, and he was preaching to the Druze, who are sort of a sect of Islam, but they believe in reincarnation, and they really are attracted to India. So this devotee, this professor who became a devotee, he was going with books in Israel to the Druze communities. And when they would see the books, they would go, what is this? My God. They'd say, are these books for sale? They're reading about India and reincarnation and Krishna, and they have all these beliefs. They don't fit in with, they're a branch of Islam, but they don't fit in with Islam so well. So somehow the bhakti in the heart of the Prabhupada disciple entered into his heart, and then he became a devotee, So it was not the piety of the disciple, it was the mercy of Prabhupada that helped him share that with the devotee. So, any comments or questions? But I learned through that experience that Krishna conscious drama is a really nice medium. And actually we had the drama in the hall at the Dallas Temple for the public. And it was really a nice experience. there was one devotee named Mangalananda who had made a Krishna conscious album some years earlier. So there was different songs in the album, like one of them was Have Mercy on the Animals. So it's like, so one of the character, I think in the drama, this rock star met a Mataji who was a devotee, and she preached to him, you can't eat meat. So in the drama she sang this song, Have Mercy on the Animals. And somehow the music and the acting really brought out all these emotions. So in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, some of the early devotees used Krishna conscious drama, to preach Krishna consciousness. And Tamal Krishnaraj wrote a drama called Jagannath Priyanadika that was actually performed in Mayapur, but also performed for the public in Calcutta. And there used to be a drama troupe in New York called the Vaikuntha Players. And they would do dramas, and some parts of the world the devotees do dramas or skits when they're on Sankirtan and things like that. I'm sure in England they do things like that sometimes. I mean, England is a home of Shakespeare and that kind of thing. Anybody have any points they'd like to add? Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I'll just make a comment about what you said, how normally it's easy to show respect and be humble to the superiors, but with those who are on the same level as you, it becomes difficult. And sometimes I notice myself, and I apologize to my fellow bhaktas, but sometimes I see like things they do and I start to have this like critical attitude, and I want to try and like control it, say like, oh, they're not doing this right or this right. But I notice that there's like a trend. Whenever that happens, I end up getting in a situation right after that, and I end up making really foolish mistakes, and I'm like, well, who am I to criticize them when I can't do these things properly? So I guess that's some of the purification process happening. I notice that it's a lot better of a mood to approach the situation and just try to be there to help them if they need it, but don't think that they're doing anything improper or wrong if that's not my role. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in a purifying process, so we all have anarthas that we need to try to get over, and, we need to appreciate devotees for being on the path, and, Shri Shiva Nila Madhava ki, Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.